Let's begin with a roll call. Wayne Ferris.
Here.
Jay Peasley. Mary Hopkins. Jen Sherburne is present. Mike Roseman. And Rick Robertson. And again, Jan Wilson is not able to attend tonight. We have 6 members. Can I get an approval of the agenda? Motion by Jay, second by Mary for approval of the agenda as submitted. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. Number 4, approval of the minutes of January 17th Planning Commission regular meeting and approval of the minutes from January 17th public hearing minutes. All of you should have a hard copy of that in your folder. Can I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
Don't move, Robert.
Motion by Robertson, second by Rosema. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. At this time, I'd like to open it up for any additional public comments.
Please, go ahead, sir.
Sorry, no, I recognize you, please.
I'm sure the people.
Okay.
My name is Brian Slipka from Hightower Lake Road. Full disclosure, I'm a retiree. I do not work for any marijuana processing facility. For the following reasons, in my opinion, I recommend that Oceana Gardens, RQMI, has earned the right to be first in line to be approved for the requested 18 Class C permits for the following reasons. Oceana Gardens, RQMI, has a proven track record of providing good paid working environment and good benefits to their employees. The owners are the highest caliber of honesty and integrity. They have put a tremendous amount of money into our local economy. The employees are honest, hardworking, law-abiding citizens. They follow all applicable laws and regulations, and they have given to the community with their volunteer work. Once again, there are 18 remaining Class C permits. Our QMI has requested all 18. In my opinion, they should get all 18. If they get all 18, with all due respect to the other 2 facilities that have applied, no Class C permits for them. That would leave 20 Class A permits and 20 Class B permits that they could reapply for. However, the Class A and B permits, because of their cost effectiveness, more than likely they would not apply for those. More expensive per plant. Then in that case, there would likely be only 4 marijuana grow facilities in this area, and that would be it. All the Class C permits would be used up. Now, there are some that say that the government should stand for property owners' rights. So let's explore this idea a little bit for those who claim that. The property owner is the person or persons who own a piece of land. This property owner has rights to use their property as they see fit if they are in compliance with federal, state, local laws, statutes, regulations, standards, and ordinances, and/or regulating agencies. Now, in the question of a medical marijuana grow facility, property owner's application per MCL, approving a site plan shall, which is mandatory by law, shall, must, and will be based upon requirements and standards contained in the zoning ordinance. So now the question arises: why the opposition? Why the opposition to marijuana grow facilities, property owners' rights? Thank you.
Joe Bruce, once again, East Hill Road. Did I hear correctly? 2 minutes or 3? Or are you going to be a little lenient if I go?
We'll be a little lenient.
I appreciate it. I want to first and foremost state that I am neither for nor against marijuana industry, either for nor against. But I do, however, have concerns with the several times over mentioned Article 22, the ordinance that's letting this happen. On my own accord, I've taken a legal review of Article 22. I was stunned by the report that I received and feel compelled to share a brief summary. Article 22 in our zoning ordinance is in our zoning ordinance, but it is written as a standalone licensing regulatory document. That means zoning, regulatory license, shoehorned together and placed into a zoning ordinance. In the review, it is highly recommended that do not take place because in Michigan statutes, there are different rules and regulations for zoning. There are different rules and regulations for licensing and the regulatory aspect. The two collide when you shove them together and stuff falls out. As an example, over here under zoning, the public has a right to know land uses through the Freedom of Information Act when things are being done. When you take that and you shove it underneath the licensing and regulatory aspect, it now becomes hidden and protected under exemption laws. So the public, what the public wants to know about the use of the land and so on and so forth, cannot be dispersed here because it's now protected in confidentiality. Due to the shoehorning of the ordinance, it does not adapt the lawful method of procedures recognized by the MCEA for the review of zoning applications.
We've got about a minute left.
Thank you. Any other things are involved? A failing to use special use. Or board planning commission do not get to impose special conditions. The number of permits is shocking. Over 100,000 medical or recreational. The allowance to locate an AR1 or C1 covers over 70% of our township. If it continues unabated, it could become the predominant land use in our township. Ordinance reflects no infrastructure requirements for commercial facility placement. The right to farm is incorrect. Medical or marijuana growers are not recognized by agricultural department as farmers. They are lobbying to get that, but it is not at this time.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other public comments?
So on the first three.
Please state your name.
I'm sorry, I'm on 184. When the first three facilities were permitted, they were not yet in compliance with the township marijuana ordinance. None of the existing facilities have yet operated in compliance with the ordinance. The ordinance itself, as the last gentleman said, is a complete mess. If the ordinance is the foundation of this program, then we have a cobbled up brick foundation. If the original three facilities are on the first floor, we have out of compliance construction on a cobbled up foundation. By permitting three more facilities, you will be adding a second floor to this ramshackle marijuana clubhouse, and it will make a bigger mess when it all falls down. Also, I just served papers to township board members and zoning administrator, which includes a 5-page list of state laws and local ordinances that have been violated due to this marijuana program being implemented.
Thank you.
Peggy Rumsey, what I Second Avenue. Glasses, I can't see very well, so bear with me. I have a question for the three facilities that's here. You are here, they're directly to the west of me, our property connects. I have no problem with that. You and I have talked about that. My question to them, you're part of our community now, right? What is your thought on new facilities coming in since the market is beginning to be saturated? Do you want more competition in the township?
I mean, of course, as a business person, I would like to have this come.
You don't have a problem. Okay, I was just curious because of the market. And then in reference to the property taxes. Okay. I have received my assessment last couple of weeks. And my assessments have went up drastically. I have different parcels, not a lot of property, just the nature that they're parcels. 3 vacant parcels. 2 vacant parcels, 1 with the farm, and then 1 with my house. Okay, my assessment went up on 1 parcel, which is the farm parcel. The assessed value went up $34,200. Okay. In 2021, it was $156,400. In 20 to 21, in 20, it was assessed value 163,400. Then 21, it went down to 156,400 with a minus 7,000. That was 2021. So now 2022, I am back up to the 36,000 something. So what's made that jump that high? My thought is, and I'm pretty sure some of it is with this, is that these properties are being bought anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 an acre. Okay, that's a lot of money for this county. We're a poor county, one of the poorest in the state. There's no way that property is worth that amount of money. Highest maybe $3,000 for any given piece of parcel, okay? If these people would have come in and offered 7,000, people probably would have said, heck yeah. But no, they came in and they offered all, they paid this money, and now we, the taxpayers that's been here, are gonna eat the cost. And pretty soon, people are gonna have to sell their places, because they keep buying property at these large amounts of money. It's impacting on us. So what's gonna happen with them? And then my question to the growers is, do you rotate your crops? How does that work with your plants? Can you continuously using the same soil over and over, or do you have to rotate? You rotate. So you'll have to either buy more property. You're changing the soil. Okay. So what happens in a couple of years?
Peggy, you're just about out of time.
Okay, if it becomes so saturated and you decide to relocate, what happens to that property? And does the values come back down?
I can answer that. They're usually grown in pots. Usually not grown in the ground.
He just answered that question.
Oh,
Thank you. The last thing I would like to say is that there's a lot of talk that's going around, a lot of accusations, calling people bigots, racist. Some has been made by one of the employees of the township. I really feel that's low, disrespectful, uncalled for. You're a professional. Race has nothing to enter into this. And I want that made clear, and I think that whoever is saying that should feel really stupid and low. And especially when they're representing the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
The taxes gonna keep going up, the stores are all moving out. You're gonna be like Fairview for a while, you're gonna be paying all the tax. They grow this in pots, so it's not gonna hurt the farm. And there's only gonna be 10 of them left, and you'll never see it on the street. It's for medical, it goes to places that have to buy it with a license. But you want to be like Fairview, you want all the biggest people, so you can all pay the tax. This is not gonna make your taxes up or down. I don't believe that. I believe your taxes will go up with everybody moving out, all the businesses moving out. That's why your taxes are going up, and it's gonna get nothing for work. Well, I've been here 20 years. and it's
I've
up
been
and down
here my
like
whole
a-
life, and
So
I'm
it
not
goes
just
up
here.
and down like a
Peggy. I'm sorry. Thank you. Peggy, I would like to add that if you would like to approach the Board of Review.
I will.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, I didn't know if you were familiar with
I
that.
just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Because it's huge, and the only thing that's changed, as I'm sure you all know, when real estate sells high and people are buying property and buying homes, it's gonna impact.
I would recommend you approach the Board of
When it
Review.
went down that much the year before, and it jumps up 36,000, where
Yeah.
do you think that's coming from?
Right, right. Any other public comments? Yes.
My name is Dan Jones. I want to do something that should have been done a long time ago. Let's thank everyone on the township board for what they do because I don't believe for 1 minute any of these people got ill wishes on anybody in this county, in this township, anywhere. It's a great thankless job, and I know that from being a union president for 10 years. And all they do is catch grief. That's all they do is catch grief. Nobody commends them for anything. Nobody helps them. None of them are lawyers. You say, well, a gentleman up here started quoting all of these specific laws and sections. How many township meetings that a lot of these people don't ever go to? They don't show up. They don't. I know people haven't been to township meetings for several years and then complain about what they're doing. And they're working their butts off all the time for it. And every one of you is guilty of getting nothing but grief for all the work you're trying to do to help your township, because you ain't making no money. I saw a lot of the publications that went around in the mailboxes about all of the different accusations. Some of them are just out and out lies. Some of them are half truths. In this country, you're innocent until proven guilty, and you make innuendos about people and you accuse them of things that they're not guilty of. So you smear those people. You smear their reputations. You have no right to do that. Nobody does. They haven't done nothing but try to help the township. And anybody that's doing all the complaining can get out there and they go sit in those chairs and find out how thankless that is. Because I got news for you, that ain't no good place to be.
Just as a point of clarity,
Steve, do you mind standing and
Yep.
stating your name?
Stephen Micklin, and in this capacity, I'm a property owner in Newfield Township, and have been a property owner in Newfield Township for over 40 years. Okay? Taxes, it's been brought up and all that. Michigan is very unique. We have two things here that influences your taxes. One is the Headley Amendment, which was passed in 1993 or 1994. And the other thing is Proposition A. And together, what those things do is and then I'll add another thing. In 2018, the legislature changed the requirements for the STC, which is the State Tax Commission. And that influences the rules for for our assessors. Okay, together it means this. Number one, I'll go in kind of backwards order. Under the rule changes in 2018, state assessors now do not have discretion in how they value your property. It used to be they did comparable things and they kind of could say, well, I like him, but I don't like him. And they could jazz around your assessment. Not very cool. They can't do this anymore. The valuations are set on a per unit basis, for example, per acre basis for Newfield Township. That is set by the state. So that when the assessor does their assessing, come up with a valuation, they say, okay, land is worth this much per acre, there's this many acres, that's the land valuation. Same thing for homes. It's based on, okay, it's this type of home, so many square foot, this much per square foot. That's the valuation. It's this many years old, this much depreciation. It's not an optional thing. It's not a pull it out of your whatever thing. It's all done by formula. That's number one. And that has changed. All right.
You got a minute left, Steve.
Number two, you are capped. While the SEV, your state equalized value, can go away wherever, your actual taxable value, what you pay your taxes on, is capped by Headley and Prop A to 5% or rate of inflation, whichever is less. So you've been in a place a long time, it can't go astronomically up. And that's it.
Thank you.
Joan Davis, 616 Street Road. I've lived here for 59 years. Never ever seen the kind of things going on. Yes, everybody has their opinions, everybody has their concerns, but I appreciate all the jobs that are opening up, the revenue that's coming in and whatnot. But I just want to make a quick reference to Peggy. When it comes to property, like Steve said, there's an amount that you have to do, and it's the lowest you can do. For our starting ratio for agriculture was 41.28%, commercial 41.79%, industrial 47.84%. Why I don't have residential, I don't know, but each classification has to fall between a 49 and 50% rate. Every rate was way below that. So in order to get there, they had to do appraisals. So our agricultural went up to 49.65, commercial 49.16, industrial 49.83, and residential 49.85. So it doesn't matter if you own a business, agricultural, house, whatnot, everybody's property went up. That's just set by the state, and unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that we can do about that because we have to follow the state rules. I know, but a lot of people might
I
not,
know
so.
that. But when I
It's
see
in the
that
whole
number,
United States.
that is a huge number.
Oh, I know.
Especially when it went down 7,000 the year before.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
That's in the whole United States. It's not just here, everybody. 24%. I don't care if it's going to slum to Detroit. You'll pay true money for that. Everybody's landing up. Everybody, not just here.
Thank you.
So that's a myth.
Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Jerry Fritz, Walkerville.
Okay.
I been in the groundwater industry. My grandfather started our business in Walkerville in 1943, and I've been there since 1959 and still there every day. Anyway, our irrigation wells. Wells now, you have to get a groundwater withdrawal permit. And what they call large capacity well is any well or a combination of wells that pump over 70 gallons per minute. That means a farmer that's got 1 or 2 wells for his dairy operation, by rights, he should have a groundwater withdrawal permit. In 2009, there was when they passed this groundwater withdrawal act in Michigan, and set it up to protect the permitting of regulation to protect our groundwater and surface waters. So when you file for a permit for the quantity of water you want, pump, you have to go into the groundwater assessment tool, which he said he's done, and which is a kind of a whole bunch of scientific data for the state of Michigan, and they will tell you you have to file the amount of water you want to pump, whether it's 100 gallon a minute or 1,000 gallon a minute. And they will tell you, according to their assessment tool, whether they approve you pumping that much water. It may say you got to go deeper to pump that much water. There's all kinds of regulations, but you have to get that approval first. A lot of the old wells didn't have their requirement because you didn't have to get a well permit to drill an irrigation well. But now you have to get a well permit, you have to file on the well permit, this application number. Anyway, they call a large capacity well any well that'll pump over 70 gallons per minute. Or if you run it 24 hours a day, pump 100,000 gallons of water a day. Oceana 2, or Oceana Garden 2 is requesting a permit to pump 1,000 gallon or 100 gallon a minute at this location. And I just guessed they'd be pumping 6 hours per day, which would be 36,000 gallons. 4 days a week, it'd be a total of 144 gallons per week. And 4 weeks, almost 600,000 gallons. But these rates are way less than the 100,000 gallon per day. But they still have to get the permit and tell them what they gotta do, or approve what you're gonna do. Oceana, Kyle mentioned a little bit about Oceana, their operation uses drip irrigation.
Mr. Brick, you have about a minute left. You've got a minute left.
Okay, I'm just. Anyway, he's got a drip irrigation, which puts the water right at the root of the plant. There's no evaporation like the spray, overhead spray irrigation, there's no runoff. No. So they're using every drop of water that is, and what the plant don't drink is going back in the ground. Your big irrigation sprinkler pivot ones, they could use 500 gallon a minute. It didn't be a small one anymore. 1,000 and even 50, there's some 1,500 gallon a minute wells up our way. Those things are pumping 90,000 gallon per hour. And so what they're doing with these grow operations is just a small amount. And I mentioned somebody, they want to talk about groundwater recharge. Said you go up down the White River, see all these flowing wells and putting water into the White River. And I just did a little playing around. If they were pumping the average of 5 gallons a minute, 24 hours per day, that's 7,200 gallons per day. And I just guessed around 40 wells probably doing that, which is 288,000 gallons a day. Or per year is 103,680,000 gallons per day going down the White River. And what groundwater is that recharge? All this recharge is Lake Michigan. That's where it's all going to end up.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Are there any other public comments? All right, hearing none, we're going to move on to communications, and I do have several. I have one from Carrie Draper dated 3/7/22. Her letter suggests that the 3 applications should only be considered in the adult entertainment zoned area. I have another letter from, and the planning commission has received copies of these as well. From Sharon Eitmeyer dated 3/8/22. That letter expresses her belief that, quote, 3 facilities are more than enough. She owns the parcels across the street from 176 proposed site. I have another letter from Steve Talbot dated 3/4/22. And his letter objects to any further permitting of marijuana facilities. I have a letter from Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Bunce dated 3/8/22, and their letter objects to any further permitting of marijuana facilities. I have a letter from Charles Bronkema thanking us for reviewing his application. He indicated support from neighbors to his facility, and he also included a, quote, methods of containment of nuisance to neighbors. I have another letter from Carol Balkema dated 3/8/22. And her letter objects to the application on Loop Road and urges the township board to find a better solution for growers. I personally received an email from Karen Carter dated 3/8, and her letter objects to any further permitting of facilities, specifically the facility on 176. Lastly, there is a letter that Steve Micklin, our zoning administrator, requested or shared with Sergeant, let me find his name, Scott Dietrich, to read his letter. And so with that request, attention, Mr. Steve Micklin and Mrs. Jennifer Sherbert. Good morning, sir and ma'am. My parents received a letter before the due date for a written response to a public hearing on March 10th, 2022 pertaining to an application for a marijuana facilities permit from RQMI for property at 176th Avenue south of Zimmer. I am currently stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and will not be able to attend or write a letter by the due date. I would like this to be my official response if that is authorized. To be quick, I do not know what will be discussed at the public hearing, but I do not want a marijuana facility near my property. My property had multiple items stolen, and I do not want more temptation in the vicinity to draw more people to the area to steal or vandalize property due to being under the influence. R/S Sergeant Dietrich, Scott Dietrich, Network Operations Chief. And does anybody else have any other correspondence? Or communications? Okay, hearing none, then let's move on to business. And there are two items. The first one is to review the elected officers, and that's on there because I misspoke with our nomination for a co-chair. Our bylaws does not say co-chair, it says vice chair. So I would like to recommend or re-motion Jay Peasley to serve as our vice chair. It's more of a language change. Can I have a second? So motion by Jen Sherman, second by Mike Rosema. If Jay is still interested. Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed. Motion carries 6-0. And then the second review of elected officers. We had motioned, recommended for Mary to serve as our secretary, but it came to my attention that the township board hadn't officially approved her yet to be on the planning commission, so I just wanted to make sure we were on the up and up right with that. And so I would like to renominate Mary to serve as our secretary. So I'm looking for a second. So motion by myself, second by Jay. All those in favor of Mary serving on our board as secretary, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0. So the second thing on our new business is our opportunity to ask the facilities owners any questions, have some discussion about ourselves amongst ourselves up here, and make a recommendation to the township board for these three applications. I'd like to open that up to the planning commission at this time. Yeah. Yes, I would agree. Yeah.
I have a question for the growers.
I'm sorry, the public comment session is done.
I do have some questions.
Yes, please, Wayne, go ahead, start us off.
Basically, it's gonna be for the RQMI facilities. When I'm looking at your application forms here, name of applicants are two different corporations, two different LLCs that you're asking to operate in one facility. Is that correct? Why is that?
Yeah, so there is one entity who's going to be doing the cultivation and one entity that's going to be doing the processing.
Two separate corporations.
They're applying for the grow permits and a processing permit.
I was understanding that we were only gonna have one corporation per permit site. We're gonna end up with multiple corporations on permit sites. Is there going to be another application for permits under another corporate LLC somewhere down the road on any of your other sites?
No, not from us.
Because this is unusual. Why wasn't they both applied for on the same one? When you applied for permits on 186, you put them both under the same corporation. So why aren't they both under the same corporation on this one?
It's done for various legal reasons for protection on their end. So the RQMI one is going to be more internal operations, and this location is going to be more for external on processing. If the township requires us to do it under one entity name, we can always switch.
I
the
would
processing
prefer it be under one
Can
entity.
you
name.
elaborate on what you mean by internal versus external? I guess I wasn't following you there.
So for processing, we can either dry trim, process it ourselves, and then ship it off to another processor, or if we have a processing license, we can do it for other parties as well. So if we want to do it for anyone else in the township on processing, we could do that.
And so that's the reason for the two separate
So that was
titles?
one of the reasons.
Okay.
So in this application, you're asking us to approve a processing facility, not just for yourself, but for other growers and,
Initially, it's just going to be for us.
but you now have the ability to do for anybody you wish.
Well,
It's a
even
separate LLC.
Even under the first one, we still could. It's just more for ease of tax purposes in the event that we choose to do it in the future. But as of right now, it's all going to be done internally. That's what we did on the first property this past season.
Correct. What you did on, again, the understanding was it was fine for this one, but now you decided to change it for this one, and it throws a funny feeling into, are we trying to hide something someplace?
If I could make something clear, it's same ownership. It's not the ownership interest in both of the LLCs is the same.
Correct, as far as the property and the addresses and in that respect. yes.
And the
And
licensure.
and the licensing and stuff like that.
Right.
Right, and I do understand businesses creating satellite plants, but not on the same property. In other words, different corporations.
So Michigan legally under the MRA allows you to have different, you vertically integrated on the same property. So in theory, you could have a grow, a processor, and a retail, or any of the other licenses on the same property. Obviously, you can only have two here in the township, but it's permitted under state law.
And was that our understanding when we set this up, that we were going to end up with multiple entities on one property? Is it something that we actually wanted?
Well,
That's the big question. I come in this late. I've just been brought to this committee for the last couple of months. I'm not involved in anything that was set up in the planning commission. So I'm trying to understand all this, and this just doesn't. I would have preferred that you put them both on the same myself than to see it change when you had already done it like this. And tax purposes may be a big part of it. I do understand that piece of it.
So it's also liability purposes. as well,
Liabilities and that also.
Because
So
it's
that
completely different operations.
If one ends up being sued, the other can't be touched. If one's being thrown off, the other one can still say, such and such and such. I do understand some of that.
It makes sense to me that it would be two separate ones, to be honest.
But there's no way to control the entire facility. You're only,
But they're different. One's growing, one's processing.
but on the processing one, if you look at the bottom, it says, business conducted at this is going to be outdoor marijuana cultivation and processing. But it's on their processing application.
What page is that, Wayne?
So on the processing one, we can only process, you can't cultivate. Same
You
as-
got it. On this one here, it says, on your application, it says outdoor marijuana cultivation and processing on your processing application number 1. So either that's a mistake or you're asking to do both.
No, we're only asking to process.
I would like to see that clarified and removed from this.
We'll do that.
When you stated, when you process, you said processing your own, and you have a processing permit on 186 already, correct?
Right.
Okay, but not bringing in from out of the area. You said Newfield Township, you're not bringing in from other townships or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay.
But it could be. Is that possible?
If you, so, yeah, right, if the township awards a permit and then the accordingly, the state allows a license, that would a licensed processor could invite cannabis from anywhere in the state.
Okay.
There would be no prohibition to do that. Is that exactly what's gonna happen? We don't have any designs on doing that. I can be quite frank about that, but there's a benefit to having a processing license, which is you can, if you have medical cannabis on site, you can convert some of it. If you have a processing license, you can, on the books, make a conversion to make some of it appear to be adult use. The state makes an exception. Say if you end up having too much medical, which you can only sell to medical patients, you can convert some of it. You can reassign it to being able to be sold to adult patients, or I'm sorry, adult recreational consumers, if you choose. And having a processing license accommodates that.
Well, I was gonna ask that too, then, about your medical marijuana, because there is a big concern about adult use being processed or grown in the facility. Now, medical, how is that used in the sense, is that a prescribed medical, or do I just show up with my medical marijuana card any place that I can buy a medical marijuana?
It's so doctors will make a recommendation. It's not prescribed in the strict sense. It's recommended by doctors.
By doctors.
If the doctor believes a certain patient has a qualifying condition. Perhaps migraine headaches could be a qualifying condition. I believe that it is.
Yes.
And a doctor may say, in my professional opinion, you have a qualifying condition, and I will sign the appropriate forms attesting to that, and you can then have a medical cannabis card and buy medical cannabis and do it in a way that's taxed less than recreational substances.
So I would have to go to a dispensary to buy medical marijuana?
You would have to do the same thing for the adult use for the
Correct.
recreational. Yes.
That's
Those are
where
true.
that's where I would get.
Yes.
Yeah, not for that.
Well, no, not from them, but I thought maybe it would be in a pharmacy along those lines.
A pharmacy that only sells cannabis. Yes.
Okay, then another question I'm really concerned about is what went into choosing the site? Why the site location? There was a lot of other areas in the township that didn't require bulldozing a forest down. Why the site location?
If there were other candidate locations that didn't, weren't densely populated or didn't have wetlands, I don't know about them.
Well, densely populated, as stated, the community just down the road from you around that lake is relatively densely populated. Recreationally used, as far as the lake goes, there is a township access on that lake, which allows any resident in the state of Michigan or the United States to actually go there, picnic there if they wish for day use, swim in that lake, fish in it, bring in their children and their kids there. So there is quite a densely group of individuals there.
We pledge to defend the community's right to use that.
It isn't so much that as we've already known that, and I've seen other study reports and other proposals about how far marijuana smell goes. And again, that's our biggest issue on certain months of the year, which is, I agree, limited, but it's still present. That can drift and go that way amongst what is considered to be a densely populated area. Wetlands, I'm not concerned about, but the forest itself, we know that carbon emissions are building in this world, this planet. Stripping down forests to provide areas for economic growth is really not in our best interest at this time. There are already troubling rainforests that are going down in the Amazon, which is never going to be replaced.
Hopefully our strategy is a compromise. Indoor cultivation of cannabis has a large carbon footprint. I'd be happy to provide the board with a confirmation that growing 1 ounce of cannabis indoors has a carbon footprint, has CO2 carbon footprint of about the same amount as burning a tank of gas for 1 ounce of cannabis.
Carbon footprint, but what I'm looking at is the trees that were there, we're actually converting this carbon back to oxygen.
It's a compromise. So what we're doing is not growing inside. So I'm calling that a resounding benefit.
I would love to see those.
I think what he's trying to say is if they're not putting a cement pad down, they're going to be growing something natural.
Correct. I would.
Cannabis also converts.
Cannabis does convert. I don't know if it converts at the same level as the trees would work. We have, no, the mass will not be there. We had a forest in place. We displaced wildlife that didn't need to be. I mean, we just bulldozed it down to virgin soil. What we had done to it.
They're doing that all around us.
I know they're doing that all
I mean,
around.
they're just
And we
clear
have-
cutting properties everywhere. I mean, it's not
But
just.
clear cutting is different from bulldozing into virgin soil. Clear cutting, you will have the ability that sort of forest to regenerate itself.
They're gonna just plant plants. Right. I mean, they're gonna be,
There'll never be trees again.
no,
Back to-
well, they,
back to
I
what it
mean,
was.
that's, well, not like that, but no.
No, it'll never.
That
And
property was also, harvested for wood.
yes, and that's what needs to be done. That's what needs to be done. That is a great management of your forest. It has to be done to manage forest properly.
But, then you lose the biomass for a number of years too, so.
And it'll regenerate and come back. But when you bulldoze it to virgin soil, that's not coming back.
Can I ask what acreage you have had to cut down? Preparing, thinking that you will get approved?
Yeah. We've removed 26 acres.
A lot of trees.
We're replacing them with plants that also factories of oxygen,
Then I
the same
have,
way the trees are.
I have this, my last question will be. A lot of people in the township are expressing displeasure with the board in itself with the rate at which you are progressing. The property cleared and prepared for building, and building supplies are already on property. It looks as if somebody has given you the green light, or money means absolutely nothing to you at all.
May I respectfully disagree? No one has given us the green light. It happens that the risk of missing a season
Yes, I understand that.
is just as damaging as some fence poles that may not be used. That's what we have right now. There are some fence poles on site.
Because according to our zoning ordinance, and I realize that there's a discrepancy with state ordinance, I've just been told. We do have permission to either say yes or no. It is not a foregone conclusion. And Jay would like to go ahead. You don't want to go on that? You don't want to go on record?
I go on record that if they meet all the qualifications in our zoning ordinance, we have to approve it.
Yeah.
That's MCL 125.3504 subparagraph 3.
So no county resident or township resident has any say in the matter whatsoever. And this meeting is for nothing.
It's fact taking. Is there
Their input,
real-
their input's for nothing.
No, it's not. We have this questionnaire here.
Questionnaire.
You guys are in front of you? Where you can check off the questions?
I don't need that.
Well, on one of them, it says.
It's not listed in here. It's not in our zoning ordinance. Where did you get that? It does not.
You got it right
zoning
there.
ordinance.
It's a helping,
That helping isn't in the zoning
it's
ordinance.
not part of the order.
No, it's not. It's not the ordinance they accepted when they bought their property.
No,
And
this is
filed
for
it.
us to help decide whether they meet required.
I think what Jay is talking about is that correspondence that he got back from, Jay, help me out. Mary Riley from the Michigan State University. Jay forwarded me that yesterday or today. You have a copy of that in your folder.
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's state law, it's state statute, that's nothing to do with our ordinance.
No matter what, we don't have a decision to make.
The decision, how would I say, happened back in 2019, when we wrote the ordinance. I want to give you a little history. Take this off. When medical marijuana was passed in 2018, which was when I joined the planning commission, marijuana laws were, if you didn't want it, you just couldn't, you didn't write an ordinance and nothing would happen. And, the people that had caregiver grows or personal grows for medical marijuana we didn't have any say at all, none, they
And I
put their 72 plants out, there's nothing we could do. And over those 10 years, it changed, and they started realizing that the caregiver system wouldn't give them enough marijuana, so they started creating laws to increase production, to actually have cannabis farms for medical marijuana. 2018, when the adult use passed, the state changed and said, you either run opt-in and let us know what you're gonna do, or you write in, give us in writing from your board that you're opting out. So we took in 2019, in fact, I had retired and I came back with that. We spent that whole year working on this ordinance and deciding what we would do, if we do anything. I mean, we came into this thing saying, what do we want to do? Do we want to just opt out? That's the easy way. Or is there a benefit for the township residents? And we said, okay, it's an agricultural community, we'll allow any agricultural related stuff. And we begged and begged and begged for public comment. In fact, we did. In fact, we're required to put our notices in the Oceana County or Oceana Herald Journal, but not that many people read it. So, I made a point that we put our notices in the highlights, which is free, delivered to anybody who wants them. It's really highly, we still didn't get any comments. When it came down to passing the ordinance, there was 8 people there, 5 planning commission members, the zoning administrator, supervisor, and the former supervisor. That was it. If people didn't want marijuana, that was the time to speak up. So that's what we did. And then now everyone's, or a number of people are upset. And, Mr. Draper is always like, you're not listening. Well, we did. We changed our ordinance and said, okay, we've got possibly 10 properties that have been bought. We're going to limit it to that, so we won't get sued, because they have a right. If they follow the statutes, they have a right to do this. And so that's all I got to say about it.
thanks, Jay. Other commission discussion. Yeah.
So are you gonna move through these, or I just didn't, okay, I just didn't, interrupt you. Read one.
Another thing that is in your packet, you will find our Newfield Township zoning map. You'll notice that the green facilities that I've marked 1, 2, and 3 are our current 3 facilities, and 4, 5, and 6 are the applicants. You'll also notice on the second page, I've kept the color coding. So the 3 facilities, and this was just for my own wanting to keep things straight, and I thought you guys could find it useful also. The green are the current operating ones, their applicant name is listed, the site is listed, the number of permits, and type is listed, as well as other information. And the things that I put on there are the acreage. So for example, our QMI Oceana Gardens 1, they have a 40-acre parcel, but once you take away the setback requirements, that leaves them approximately 25 farmable acres. True North, which is on 200, they own 37 acres, but only 15.5 of their acres is farmable. They also reported having a 5-inch well at 120 feet deep. High Cloud, I'm still waiting for a little bit more information from them. They're the ones on M20. And then you'll notice kind of the 3 applying permits. I've listed out on the bottom the different types of permits that we allow, including Class A, B, and C, excess growing, processing, safety compliance, and secure transporter. How many of those permits are being used and the number available. And then on the 3rd page, I thought it was really important, and this is probably the biggest one for me, is an employment summary. So I think this is valuable for everybody, so I'm just going to share. Our QMI Oceana Gardens 1 reported having 14 full-time year-round employees plus 25 full-time seasonal employees. I think at our last meeting, all of the facilities reported around $20 an hour wages plus full benefits. True North, John Griffiths got back to me 2 days ago and said they have 15 full-time employees and around 30 temps during harvest season, all local staff. They have 5 full-time growers along with Sid Smith, our local farming expert. Our company does profit sharing with all employees as well as healthcare with 0 premiums for full-time employees and their families. High Cloud, the one on M20, their renewal application in January reported 12 permanent employees at their site and 30 seasonal employees. Our QMI's application currently is saying this location will initially require 1 full-time horticulturist, as well as 10 to 15 full-time harvest technicians, 2 security guards, and a facilities manager. In the fall, additional temporary help will be needed for harvesting and trimming. Preeminent Laboratories reported 5 permanent employees at the site, plus 5 additional seasonal employees, and that's according to their application. And CGCC, Charles Bronkema, reported 2 permanent employees at their site and 12 additional seasonal employees according to their application. I don't know about you guys, but this is a lot of new jobs created in the township.
We got 63 full-time permanent, and then the part-time would be full-time, would be 102, that'd be up to 160 or 70 employees.
A lot.
We don't have anybody else in this area that employed that.
Just want to share that.
Yeah, it was very, very helpful.
Say it louder.
We also don't have any other business that's putting this much money into our township. If all 50 permits are handed out, that's $250,000 every year, just in permit costs, that's going back into our township.
Well, I would like to be able to see what this money is going to be due.
Agreed.
What
I agree.
are we going to be able to do with it? Where are we going to be able to spend this money? Before we go any further, so people that are on the line simply because of what they are, marijuana, and that's what's basically everybody, right away you say marijuana, ears perk up. I want to be able to show these people what benefits you're going to get financially and where they're going to be spent.
I agree, that needs to be shared. I agree.
Well, no, but I'm thinking we should slow this process down. Let's give them a chance to absorb it. Let's give them a chance to see what's going on. That's just what I think.
Give the people a chance to see.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, give them a chance to to say, well, maybe I was wrong. Okay, our roads are in terrible shape out there. If you looked at any and all of the asphalt ones in the backcountry. It has been proposed a few times in discussion of bringing on a road millage tax like the other townships in the other areas have done to get this going. Are we acceptable to having more taxation in order to get some of this taken care of? That's something to think about.
Or do we count on this money here?
Or can we use some of this money here to do some of it? to
I know that's
improve
a touchy answer. Correct,
Correct.
Amanda?
Correct.
But it's an ever changing answer.
It's a never
correct?
changing answer that I have heard.
It's been,
I have not understood it that way.
We have an opinion from our attorney
Correct?
that says that the money can be used for infrastructure projects that would benefit both local residents and the facilities.
I
And
have not
support.
understood it that way.
That's absolutely incorrect, but anyways, I'm not going to debate that. Anyways, so for example, Wayne, 200th Avenue, which they chopped up last year because it was so bad. Because that serves a facility at 200th and Yonkers, permit fees could be used for that road justifiably so because it's benefiting that facility and its employees because they're using that road.
But nobody else in the township would be allowed to get any benefits to their.
Well, anyone who lives along 200 would get.
Correct, but that's, what I mean is Garfield Road, there's no residence, facility down there, so we can't put any of this money down. there.
Right, but you could put it into,
County still.
yeah, and Garfield Road actually is, that should be.
Correct.
I
I
mean,
use
you
that
get
for
money from
example.
somewhere else that would have went to fix these roads. The ones that, the facilities are on, that money that would have been allowed to fix up roads out of the township budget could be used somewhere else now. Not using their money,
What's
yes.
left in the township.
Yes, correct.
which
I
is
mean,
very-
that's something that John and them do every year. They have to,
Correct, I understand.
they have this point out roads that need to be fixed, and some of these roads aren't torn up because of this.
No, I'm not.
Oh,
saying-
okay, okay,
No,
so
no,
a
no,
lot
no,
of them are torn up from,
No.
okay, all right. Years and years of abuse.
I have a question for Amanda. How much money from property taxes that you collect actually comes back, what, to Newfield Township for these?
For property taxes,
Yes.
I would have to get that information. I can have that for you on Tuesday.
I'm thinking it's probably pretty close to the same amount that we're collecting from permit fees. No,
How does that compare to everybody else? I would have to ask Joe, I'm pretty sure it's not CRT, but it would be.
Hey, Joan, we got a quick question for you.
We're curious as to the difference in our property taxes and the taxes that they're paying on their property. See, that is different to what? How else should I word that?
Our property taxes versus property taxes on these properties?
Yes,
They're,
as far as
they're all
percentage.
set pretty much the same.
But it's based on what they pay,
What's that?
because it's changed hands, so they're paying they're paying a lot more property
They're
taxes.
paying what the taxable value was at the point where they purchased the
When
property.
they purchased it, okay.
Yes.
And it's commercial based, so they're not, I mean, you're paying at 18 mil, right? So your taxes are significantly higher than some of the private.
If I may, once the property's improved with barns, driveway, et cetera, then of course it's gonna get reassessed.
So
And that value of that is gonna go up and will be taxed even more. You heard me talking about how much we get taxed before.
So compared to a vacant cornfield, a 40-acre cornfield, what's the taxable on that? Say at $2,000 acre, or theirs where they're coming in, it's gonna be significantly, we're talking at 40-50% higher, correct? Then,
Again, I would have to look at these specific parcels in comparison to cornfields,
So
because I'm not
just
sure
the
what
tax-
cornfields are assessed at, because the thing is, cornfields likely have been in the same hands for years and years and
yeah,
years.
so they're not
Yes,
getting any
they've been
higher.
uncapped. as soon as they purchased the properties, which brought them back up. to
But the tax dollars they're paying, there's no regulation on that. The taxes they pay on that is, we can use that, correct?
The portion that is ours.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Man, this up right.
I'm looking at timeline, everybody, and in our zoning ordinance. I'm on page 90, if you have yours here. It says for the permit. Approval, issuance, denial, and appeal on inspections, review, which would be us, and processing of the application shall be completed within 60 days of the receipt of the completed application and all required fees. The township board shall approve or deny the permit within 120 days of receipt of the completed application and fees, or within 150 days if the location of the permitted premises or property is proposed to be amended. So I guess I'm curious, Steve, what you have for dates.
You have them on your packets, I think, because you print yours off of the internet,
Uh-huh.
but I think Jay and Wayne in their packets, those are copies from the actual application. And those will have the dates. I believe it was 128 for RQMI and just about similar for Preeminent Labs. And then I believe it was 225 for CGCC.
And all 3 applications have paid their application fee. Okay.
Our township is 6 square miles, right?
6 square miles, yeah.
So we have roughly 23,000 acres in our township,
6 by 6 is 23,000.
23,040.
Okay.
And these 6 is the 3 that are already here and the 3 that are asking for, combined to a total of 218 acres, which is less than 0.01% of our township. But the money they're gonna bring in is gonna be, I mean, with the tax dollars and stuff.
I can get the exact tax dollars for
Thank
you
you.
on Tuesday's meeting.
All right, thank you very much. So that's just something to keep in mind. I mean.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's huge.
Okay. Do we address the 18 permits that are available, or is that something that the township board addresses? That's my next question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, we can recommend everyone, but then, you know, come Tuesday, the board's gonna have to make a decision where they get divvied up. Or increase, they can increase the number of permits by 5 by resolution.
By resolution, they are allowed to increase or decrease or change any number they wish at any time they wish by resolution. Either once a year or whenever they feel necessary throughout the year.
Each year, they are able to review that.
Yes.
Make a motion, are we done discussing? With the argument?
Half hour.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the permits for argument.
And recommend to the board.
Yes.
Are we recommending all 18?
Yeah.
And the processing, or are you doing that separately?
Yes. Let's do them separately.
Okay, motion by Jay to recommend approval to the board for the 18 Class C permits and 1 processing permit requested by RQMI. Do I have a second?
And for
Motion by Jay support by Rick. We're gonna do a roll call vote for this one. Wayne,
No.
Jay?
Yes.
I know it's definitely also. Mary? Yes. I'm a yes. What's your name? Mike? Mike's a yes. And Rick?
Yes.
Yes. So recommendation motion passes 5-1.
Make a motion that we approve parking wise, one permit for processing.
Or
I missed the motion, Jay, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve the one processing permit.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we were doing it together. Okay. Motion by Jay, second by Rick, was that you?
Yeah.
To recommend the one processing permit for RQMI. We'll do a roll call vote for this one as well. Wayne,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
I'm a yes. Mike, and Rick. Yes. Motion passes 5-1. On to preeminent laboratories.
My question would be two, the township board can decide how many they give out, correct?
It's true.
So they can change it. So they could say, RQMI gets 14, get two here,
They
that covers
could.
everything.
They could, or they could say RQMI gets all 18 and preeminent and Charles get none. I mean, however they'd like to do it.
Increase.
Or they could increase the, yep, they could do that as well. I don't see that happening either, but
Or we come on, right? Yeah.
I have a question for preeminent, just a general one. In your packet, you had, no, we didn't require it, but it was nice to see your insurance.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but it was listed for 7,200 and 20 rather than 7,400.
Probably a mistake by insurance.
So I'm just pointing it out that, you know, because I used to work for insurance companies. They were like, oh, wrong address, claim denied.
I have a question also. We're talking about scrubbers in your facilities for, is that for processing or is that gonna be for grow?
It's a different grow, but it'd only be within the warehouse, obviously. But yeah, for trimming and packaging, stuff like that, we would include the scrubbers.
Like, I was just curious about that. And then the,
Can I make another point, actually, in terms of employees, I spoke with our cultivation, so it'd be 5 to 10 per application, actually. So it could be 10 full-time and 10 temporary employees.
per application.
So it was, I mentioned 5 to 10, so I'm saying it's 5 to 10 per application.
Okay, so it did increase by 10.
Exactly, yes, sir.
Okay.
And then they also mentioned that the greenhouses, any kind of smell actually goes into the woods, the way that the smell is pushed from the greenhouses.
Pushing it to the north.
Exactly, yes, sir. I'm sorry, could you hear what I'm saying? Sorry.
Pushing it to the west.
No, I had to confirm direction, I think that is north.
That's north.
on the site plan.
Yeah, according to the site plan of the building, it's set this way, they would set running north south and the van would be at the back of the building. Yeah, so it would be towards the north, that'd be the, yeah.
In your camera setup for inside your fencing,
Yeah,
does
it
that
will be, yeah.
also view exterior then also?
It will.
So that's why I was concerned about the neighbor himself, where you know, that's,
Almost a required.
that's part of the
Yeah.
requirement for the state level, isn't it?
Exactly.
Correct. Okay, I just want to point that out.
Sorry.
I just wanted to
Oh, yeah,
point that out.
exactly.
He had to know.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna require it, they're gonna want pretty much every inch of that property.
Correct.
Of your property.
Yes, that's correct. Do
Alright,
our
great.
best to, and, shield it as much as we can, but we're just obviously that requires by the other right, that we just can't get around. Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, does someone want to make a motion for preeminent laboratories application? Okay, what is your motion like?
To approve the two class C permits.
Okay, motion by Mike to approve the 2 Class C permits and recommend them to the township board. Is there a second? Okay, motion by Mike, supported by Jay. We're gonna do a roll call vote again. Wayne,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Mary? I'm a yes. Mike?
Yes.
And Rick?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-1. And before we get to CGCC, Charles Brockema, I would like to request what's the word I'm looking for, to abstain from this vote. My immediate supervisor is a very close neighbor, so I have a little bit of a conflict of interest there. Our bylaws say that it's not a relative, it is a conflict of interest, so I'd like to entertain a motion to recluse, abstain. I need you guys to, I need somebody to make a motion
Make
for
a
that.
motion that Jen abstains from this vote.
Motion by Jay, can I have a second?
I have a question for him before we.
We're not voting yet.
I'm not going to
Oh,
discuss this
oh,
one.
okay.
Motion by Jay, second by Mary, to approve my abstainment from this vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Motion passes 5-1. Now your question, Wayne.
I wanted to ask about your selling product off of your grow area. Where is it? Oh, there it is. So you're going to grow product, process it to be sold at a licensed dispensary. You're basically then are going to be transporting this down and selling in your licensed dispensaries. That's what you're looking.
No, so I don't own any retail stores anymore. And I'm not applying for a processing permit, so we would just harvest it, package it, and then one of the other 5 licenses is secure transporters. You call the secure transporter company.
I thought you had opened up facilities in the Muskegon area.
No, so actually my majority owner sold. That's
Okay.
kind of part of an application. I introduced myself and then said that they sold and, now I'm moving on to this.
Okay, all right, okay.
Yep.
So I need to know.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Our ordinance says, if you're not the owner of the property, if you're leasing it, the lease agreement needs to be notarized.
Yeah.
And yours wasn't.
Yes.
I did not see a notary stamp anywhere on it.
I have a signed letter from the owner, which is right here, and it's notarized with an affidavit of approval to operate.
It wasn't part of the package, so.
I believe so. I have I emailed it to.
Everything that was.
If you have the application, I can show you where it is.
It's right here.
This is actually my notarizer here too, my fiance.
Jay, it wouldn't be in the printed materials. It would have been in the electronic.
I don't have it.
Yeah. And
So on the table of contents on the front, it would be a letter, a number that denominates where the signed and notarized authorization from the owner is. It's very good, Bob. I'm going to sign it. Him and Denise sign it. And the lease agreement also states that it allows marijuana growing.
Right, yeah, it's all that. You guys both signed it, but it wasn't, our statute says notarized, so. We'll have to. I would make, if we vote on this and approve it, it would be a condition that we see that.
Okay, yeah, definitely. I included that, so we can definitely clear that up.
Because all the other facilities are, owned and by the same person. The corporation. It's not a lease. So there's unique in that you're leasing property from Larry, I guess. And, things can always go awry too, so.
No, I appreciate the question. I would definitely check it out. Should have all the documents there though.
We can make it stipulation
Yes.
before the board meeting, you'd have to have a signed notary.
Is there a recommendation to the board?
Yes, question. So I have another question for you. Are you using the existing driveway? Or are you
Yes, I am.
putting in are they gonna still be living on the properties?
Yes, they are. And I have a 200-foot boundary where there's no marijuana product.
Okay.
As shown in the site. plan. I talked to Jeff Baltimore, and he said we're good to use those two driveways as they are.
Okay. And what about well? You're using the existing well or is it gonna be a new well drilled?
Yep, so it's a new well. It's less than 70 gallons per minute.
Okay.
I also have a well permit that was included in my application.
Okay.
And the location is identified.
Okay. So, question on one of them, you're applying for 2 permits. Okay, and that, I mean, if that's approved, you say the future expansion, but if there's no other permits, there won't be no other expansion.
Yeah, I'd be happy to stay within the fenced
Okay.
area that I plan on building.
Okay.
Yep.
Motion to approve it. The 2 classic permits.
Motion by Mike, support by Jay. We'll do a roll call for this as well to recommend approval to the board. Wayne,
No.
Jay,
Yes.
Mary? Yes. I'm abstaining. Mike,
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1. One abstain for our recommendations. As a reminder, our recommendations to the board need to be in writing. And if nobody has anything else, I'd like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
I would like to make at least one public comment.
Zoning.
Yeah.
Administrative report.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I was looking back on the public hearing one. Sorry.
I would like to make one comment
Yes.
before. My reasons for no votes are not specific to the industry in itself.
Okay.
I would like to see the process slowed and give the people a chance to see where the funding can be and will be used. That's all my concern is. We have a lot of opposition. I'd like to turn some of that opposition around if we could see that happen. But as far as being against the industry in itself, that is not true. I do not have any prejudice against the industry.
I see it. We have no other permits there. So-
Correct, and I understand
And this is it.
And this could actually be the end of everything that we have to fight over.
This could be it. This is the 6th. I mean, and if they don't comply and they don't know it, if they don't follow the con, then they
Or-
can be restricted or
Or
never.
it could just be 4.
Yeah, or it could be 4, or it could be 3.
Oh, that's possible too.
I mean, it's our recommendation. I mean,
Correct.
so. I see what you're saying.
My feeling is, so the number of permits is, telling how many they can grow. We don't tell farmers how many corn plants, how many squash plants, how many blueberries. We don't tell them anything. They can do whatever they want by limiting them. I mean, the permit system is for tax collection. I mean, that's basically, it's a revenue for the state and town municipalities to collect money.
And these, so, under the understanding of that hemp, they could grow hemp anywhere in this area without any permits.
Any permits
Do
whatsoever.
it anywhere and there's no, the tax is not the same or so, okay. This is our way of benefiting the township.
Correct.
Legally, if they comply, we have to, approve
Yes.
the applications. It's state
We
law.
have,
Yes.
the board is.
State law.
We need to do some work on our zoning wording that, because in that it states that there is no guarantee of receiving a permit, even though you are just reapplying for one that you have already.
And if they're not compliant, like if they don't follow all the rules. then
Correct,
we don't
that
have it.
part is, in our zoning, it states that irregardless, there's nothing that guarantees them a renewal at the end of this year into January. That's what our zoning reads. So if we need to get this up to state level, then we need to do something to get it to state level.
Steve, your turn.
My turn.
Zoning administrator comment.
I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna really make much of anything because it's quite late. My dog is probably stomping his feet. Other than to say exactly what was said about hemp. There was a hearing in Lansing 3 weeks ago. Oh, okay. I guess I have to short, right? Okay. There was a- Hey, all right, enough of that. There was a hearing in Lansing 3 weeks ago to consider allowing industrial hemp oil to be modified chemically and then be substituted for cannabis oil. Most of, just about, I think, everything that's being produced by our current facilities and the proposed facilities is flowers that are then made, that's then extracted into oils, and then those oils are made into cookies and candies and stuff like that. And that's kind of the big market. If this were to be agreed upon by the MRA, cheaper hemp oil could be adulterated to replace that. It would have to be labeled as synthetic, but that would happen. Someone who thinks that, oh yeah, well, yay, hemp. No, not yay, hemp. If that happens, no more revenue to the township. If people decided not to grow cannabis and to do hemp, it could conceivably hurt these folks currently in business. If they switched over to hemp again, we'd have no control on that. The townships have no authority to do anything on hemp. Hemp is controlled by the Department of Agriculture only. They don't even notify the township. We had hemp in this township previously. And we got no notice. It, poof, there it is. So as opposed to cannabis that we are allowed to regulate. The good news to me is, as long as this doesn't happen, or even if it does happen, if we have existing cannabis facilities, cannabis is not good with hemp. That may keep hemp people away. So it's just an update on that, and I'm done.
Thank you.
So you can adjourn.
All right, we, recommendations for the board, do I go back to that again? Okay. Recommendations for the board. I just say that, Jay? Okay, so we have, is it a motion?
No, we
Just reread it. So we are recommending to the township board that our QMI Oceana Gardens 2 requesting 18 Class C permits and 1 processing permit. We are approving or recommending them for approval. Preeminent Laboratories requesting 2 Class C permits. We are recommending them for approval. And CGCC Charles Rockema is requesting 2 Class C permits. We are recommending them for approval.
With the condition on CCC that they provide.
With the condition on Charles Rockema's application, that you do get notarized on the lease agreement. And I would recommend that there might be a conflict of interest there with the notary, that you find a different notary.
Sure.
Before the township meeting on Tuesday.
Okay, so the lease agreement, the buy and sell, and the authorized statement.
they wanted to change
The lease agreement.
The lease agreement.
Okay.
Okay. All right, can I have a motion for adjournment?
Motion by Mary, second by Wayne.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned.